Petitions in hand, demonstrators fight to end electric shock treatment after an 18-year-old is left brain damaged. Plus, author Eric Larson on being in the Garden of Beasts, his bestseller about an American family in Berlin during the rise of Nazi Germany. And Cambridge police turning themselves over to teens, now on Greater Boston. Good evening, I'm Jared Bowen in for Emily Rooney. A Canton school is facing national criticism over its controversial use of electric shock therapy. In a recent malpractice trial, video of school officials repeatedly shocking an autistic teen was shown in court. The graphic video went viral and prompted more than 200,000 people to sign a petition demanding that the Rotenberg Center end the practice. The online push to stop electroshock therapy at the Judge Rotenberg Center was launched by Gregory Miller, a former teacher's assistant at the school. After video of autistic teen Andre McCollins' shock treatment was shown in court and posted online last month, more than 200,000 people signed Miller's petition at the organizing site change.org. Today, Miller and Andre McCollins' mother, Cheryl, brought those names to the State House.
220,000 people, concerned citizens. 220,000. You just give you the size of this box. We're taught to believe that this is the only school that can help these children in the whole world. And then we realized afterward, and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? Because around the world they have programs where they use positive programs, positive support for these children.
On their list of politicians to visit, House Speaker Bob DeLeo, whose chamber has repeatedly stopped attempts to make shock therapy illegal. And with me now are Cheryl McCollins, who is the mother of Andre McCollins, who was treated with electric shock therapy, and Gregory Miller, a former teacher at the Judge Rotenberg Center. Welcome to both of you. So we can't, for a variety of rights issues, we can't show the video that was shown in court. We weren't there shooting it that day. People can see it on YouTube. But Cheryl, can you describe for me what that video depicts with your son?
It depicts torture, abuse, which is exactly what it is. And this is what they do. And they wanted to hide this from the public. But now I'm here to show the public exactly what they do. They abuse disabled children, and they make a big profit off of doing it.
Well, what the video shows, you know, as a bystander just looking at it, not really understanding, but reading what the Rotenberg Center says is they do 1 to 3 second electric shocks against the skin. But you see your son being held down, or I think he's tethered because you can't actually touch the person with the treatment, and he's being shocked. I mean, when you saw this video, what was your reaction? Did you have an understanding that this was happening?
Oh, no, not at all. I was very well misinformed. First of all, it all started because my son refused to take off his coat. When he refused to take off his coat, they shocked him. He ran underneath the table trying to get away from them. They pulled him out from underneath the table, dragged him, and held him down with a lot of people standing around him, and they all had their hands on him. He never hit anyone, never raised his hands, nothing. He was afraid, very scared. And then they placed him on this 4-point board with a helmet, and they shocked him 31 times in a 7-hour period. He didn't go to the bathroom. He hadn't eaten. Held down 7 hours, which was a contraindication. They were not allowed to do those 3 things at the same time. I also withdrew them using this device on his arms, but they had it on him anyway.
Well, what the video does not show, but what the school says, is that there was a pattern of really aggressive behavior. Well, not necessarily, not taking off your coat can't necessarily be presumed as aggressive behavior, but there had been a pattern of aggressive behavior with your son prior to that treatment that's shown in that video.
Well, what people don't understand, first of all, there's a lot of provoking and controlling that goes on in this school. They took my son off of his medication. If you take any child off their medication, they are going to exhibit behaviors. So that's one way of provoking. There's no therapy in the school, so they don't speak to the children. So if my son is having any type of problem, for instance, they asked him to take off his coat, but they didn't ask him why. Why won't you take off your coat? So there's no communication, okay? That's also very unfair, and it's also something that they never informed me that they do here.
Gregory, let me bring you in here. You are a former employee of the school. They are very upfront about this is a method that they use, that this is not commonly practiced, that they take it very seriously, but they use the term aversive therapy. What is the philosophy behind this treatment?
Well, first place, you can see a lot of details on the change.org, and where I've listed the things that I wish that I knew when I first started there to help make a decision. And I'd like to just comment in terms of it not being common. These students are shocked there every day. So to say it's not common, that's not true. In fact, there are some students that have written in their programs while I was there that they would tie them to the same kind of boards, stretch out like Jesus, and have them with these electric shocks, and they'd shock them 5 times, spread out over a 2-hour period, as a consequence for a single behavior.
So what is the philosophy behind it, though? I mean, this is something that's, it's not new, it's not singular to the Rotenberg Institute. This has been done for decades. So what is the philosophy behind it?
Well, the philosophy's been there for decades, but I think this is the only school that has used pain like this to this degree. My understanding is that, hey, that we can control you. That we can, if we want to make change, we'll change you through your environment, basically. That your environment makes you who you are. So in your environment, if you have a positive reward for something that we want you to do, then you adapt. And if you get a negative consequence, a strong shock for something we don't want you to do, well, then you'll avoid that thing. And I believe it's this mentality about how do we control somebody else by shaping their environment. That's my best understanding.
Okay, we did reach out to the Rotenberg Center today, and they provided a statement which I want to read to the both of you, which is that most students at the JRC do not receive aversive therapy. It is only administered when other therapy options have been exhausted and parents and doctors petition the court. Each case is reviewed by a human rights committee, a peer review committee, and a physician. And they also pointed out to us, Cheryl, that every parent has to sign off on their child being treated with electric shock therapy. So did you sign off on your son being treated?
Yes, but you see, first of all, they don't inform you of everything that they do when you sign up and when you sign off this petition. And the people who, like they say it's court ordered, they don't know what they're doing. They don't have an idea of what goes on in the school.
Meaning the shock treatment is not
meaning
consistent.
that they abuse the children, meaning that they torture the children. The tape of my son shows you exactly what they're doing. That device is supposed to be used for extreme behaviors. The only reason why I allowed my son to go to the school is they had cameras in every room, on the bus, even in the housing.
And let me just stop here for a second. Another thing, I'm sorry that we don't have them on here and that I have to play devil's advocate to a degree, but they also said that your son had exhibited violent behavior, that he had punched you and had punched his grandmother in the face.
In 1994, that probably did happen. But we're talking about what year was it that he was in the school? 2001?
So 10 years
Prior
ago.
to this school, he was in another school, and he was on Risperdal, and he did very well. And due to some issues, I had to remove him. The only reason why I chose this school is because they had cameras. That was the main reason. My son didn't have erratic behaviors. He didn't bang his head on walls, kick, bite, scratch. But I will tell you this, if he's provoked, which a lot of times he was, okay, he will become aggressive, and they do a lot of provoking there.
And Gregory, I have to say, what they also pointed out to us about you was that you had been suspended from the school at one point, that they're considering filing a lawsuit against you for defamation, and at one time you had actually advocated that there wasn't enough treatment of electric shock therapy to treat some of the students there.
At the beginning, when I first started there, I did believe in the program. I believed in what the psychologists had designed as treatments, and I, like many parents are there. I mean, I believe the parents, I believe the psychologists, I believe the lawmakers think, and that this was the only treatment that was going to, in the whole world, that was going to help these most severe behaviors of these students. That somehow these students were different from the rest of the students in the world. In terms of Judge Rotenberg Center, they can say anything they want and say anything as long as they know they're not on the witness chair. If they're on the witness stand, maybe they would say something else. I left myself on my own choice. I made that decision, and I was in good standing. In my exit interview, I was told that, hey, you're one of our top 10 employees. We'll miss you. That's what I was told.
But you had been suspended at one point.
Oh, everybody's suspended at Judge Rotenberg Center for a day or here, a day there. Just like they have consequences for students, they have consequences for all the staff. Everybody there, basically, if you work there any period of time, you miss a day here, you miss a day there. It's just supposed to be the equivalent of an electric shock for the staff. You do something, and that's just part of the life there.
Cheryl, I want to ask you, this all came out as part of a malpractice trial. I know you can't really, I guess the term, it was settled ultimately, so you can't really disclose the terms of the settlement, but are you happy with how it was resolved?
To a degree, but I will never be happy because right now there are children in this school and they're being tortured and abused as we speak. Now, if this tape is what we have seen, I can only imagine what I haven't seen.
Let me just ask you, because we're running out of time, but quickly, what's the next step? You've met with people on Beacon Hill today. There are some politicians who have forthrightly said that they don't want to sign off on this, they don't want to ban it. So what hope do you have of instituting some change here?
Well, number one is people need to become aware. They need to see what we're talking about. They need to see it. I mean, for the JRC has discredited and tried to deny what's been happening there for so long. And for once, thanks to Cheryl and the efforts of Cheryl's and her family, we finally can see a little bit of what it looks like inside the school.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining. It's a tough issue. We appreciate your coming into the studio today.
Thank you.
And in a moment, best-selling author Eric Larson is here talking about the rise of Nazi Germany, the subject of his latest book, In the Garden of Beasts.